My name is Udayan Bose, and I'm the founder and CEO of NetElixir. I hail from India. Our offices are in Princeton, New Jersey, but we have some global offices in London and in India and Hyderabad as well. NetElixir, we specialize in retail digital marketing. So we work with a wide range of retailers, about 125 retailers currently. And for them, we manage their entire digital marketing program, which includes search engine optimization, search engine marketing. There is an increasing demand for paid social advertising. Amazon ads, we do a lot of analytics consulting as well. And we have, over the last couple of years, set up a pretty substantial practice in terms of e-commerce tech development, specifically for e-commerce platforms such as Miva, such as Demandware or Salesforce Commerce, Shopify, Magento, and so on. Post-click is about meeting the expectation which the customer really had when they landed on your website. Post-click also is trying to help the customer, or an assistive property which helps the customer to really get to the goal in the shortest possible time. We have been lucky enough to be a part of the entire digital marketing transformation. And we are seeing more and more the importance of giving the customers a choice. So the customer journeys have become more complex because the customer is really constantly seeking newer and newer choices and more options. So essentially, if you really track the customer journeys, what the customers are more and more seeking, essentially a post-click experience which matches to what they had started the search with. They expect their problems slash questions to be answered. And they are really looking for something with a very short span of time. Because in most of the cases, we are seeing, for example, we really specialize in the search marketing space. And for an average retail e-commerce company, about 70 to 75% of all of the searches really happen from the mobile devices. So if you're not really providing the customer something which immediately addresses their question and need, you probably may lose the customers. I think, so in terms of post-click experience, to summarize, I think the first one is meeting as to what they are expecting. So as simple as landing them on the right page so that you're not really creating any dissonance. The second part is providing them options or choices, because any customer is looking for different options so that they are able to evaluate the alternative. The third part in the post-click experience is some social approval, wherein the reviews have become more and more important in the scheme of things as well, that someone else has done it. We also really have found a tremendous correlation in terms of localized reviews. So let us say I'm from Princeton, I'm likely to believe someone else from Princeton reviewing a site more than someone else probably from Los Angeles reviewing the site for some reason. So I think there is a localization of reviews which is happening as well. And last but not the least, they are expecting to complete everything within a very short span of time, which often is probably less than 30 to 60 seconds. Company specializes in really helping the customers, our clients who are retailers, win new customers. So we do paid as well as organic. So we probably started as a specialist with paid search only. But since then, now the entire portfolio of services, SEO is a pretty substantial part of our business driver. In terms of the debate between paid and organic, I think my stand remains the same as probably about 12 to 15 years back when we had started off. I think the marketer really needs to look at paid and organic from the end customer or the shopper's point of view, rather than a marketer's point of view. For a shopper, the idea is what I really want to get very quickly and a short span of time. So I think it always is a blend of the right mix. If you talk about search advertising, since that's our big area of competence and our biggest business line, essentially, we see that the entire behavior has really evolved to how can you really maximize the value of a SERP, as we call it. Value of a SERP is value of a search engine results page. How much of organic listing position should you have, or how much of paid listing, which is the text ads as well as the product listing ads as the shopping ads, should you really have, so as to be able to provide your customer, which is the online shopper, with the most optimal and the easiest experience possible. So it has really to do with more of a different mindset rather than essentially a debate between paid and organic, because honestly speaking, the shopper couldn't care less whether it is paid or organic. For them, they are really wanting their questions to be answered as quickly as possible and as effortlessly as possible. I think the biggest challenge of personalized marketing is privacy. I mean, the overall shopper privacy has to be constantly be in focus. So from that perspective, I think personalization, though exciting for every marketer, because it's a much more efficient way of marketing, has to be really, again, sort of the marketer really has to look at this from the perspectives of the online shopper. They want the information, but they don't really want to share all of their private information with you. So from that perspective, I think it's important for the marketer to strike a balance. We have, I think, as shoppers ourselves, over the last few years, I still remember the hesitation I had maybe about 5 to 7 years back with just simple thing like a form autofill, right? Why should I really sort of save my credit card information there? But now I'm not really that concerned. So from that perspective, it's a question of habit as well. And obviously some of the larger companies like Google, etc., are trying to create those habits. But having said that, it's very important for marketers to really act in a responsible manner, to get personalized marketing to the level where they're using only that much amount of essential content which is required to create a superior shopper experience without intruding into the privacy of the individual shoppers. How the marketers can do it, there is an opportunity for the marketers to really anonymize the shopper information. Aggregated shopper information obviously is helpful. Aggregation, though, takes marketers away from the concept of personalization, but I think aggregation still is a pretty substantially good way to get you as a marketer what you are really looking for in terms of shopper engagement without in any way interrupting the shopper privacy norms. In terms of e-commerce, it has become much more seamless. I think the barriers between the classical or offline commerce and online commerce or e-commerce is blurring at a very fast pace. The customer essentially or the shopper is looking for one single unified experience, right? So from that perspective, that is the direction which e-commerce is very clearly headed to, right? Or retail is very clearly headed to. The second part about e-commerce is it has really become a lot more experiential. So the customer is really looking for, first of all, connecting with the brand experience and what you really stand for, the brand purpose and the brand experience. And only if they feel a connect would they really even allow you as the marketer to engage them in your brand experience, essentially. If they don't connect, they'll probably leave immediately. The third component in the e-commerce, which really seems to be evolving very clearly, it has become multi-device, multi-touch points, right? So effectively, I think about 3 to 4 years back, Google did a study where they sort of studied the mobile usage behavior of consumers. And they found that on an average, daily, we are accessing or checking our phones about 150 times a day. Now that was 3 to 4 years back. I'm pretty sure that number would be a lot higher now. So effectively, constantly checking out multiple devices from which you really want to access information. E-commerce also has really evolved in terms of just probably a bit of a paradigm shift that you don't really essentially need to sell everything from only your website. The marketplaces obviously have been gaining a lot of traction and a lot of momentum as well. So are we really talking about e-commerce as it really evolves in terms of how much are you able to sell online from across the different properties, whether it is owned properties or whether it is paid separate properties or third-party properties, is basically a mix and a choice that you really have to decide on. Apps as a key driver of e-commerce has gone up. I literally came back from India just last week, and it's just quite incredible to see the adoption of apps, specifically for some of the bigger sites or bigger e-commerce companies. In fact, I think the first radical step came almost about 7 to 8 years back by this site called Myntra, which said that we will not have a website at all. Entire e-commerce would be mobile commerce, right? Everything would be done through apps. We will not really have a website at all. right? So there are a lot of experimentations. The Chinese economy is sort of going to a different level because everything is through WeChat. So at the end of it, if you sort of boil down everything around e-commerce and trying to look at it from the shopper experience perspective, the fundamental here is how can you really minimize the friction? As a retailer or an e-commerce company, I think the goal is to minimize the friction so that, again, your shopper can really get to or achieve what they are looking for in the shortest possible time with the minimum amount of friction and really sort of be done with that. One thing which definitely we all probably know is that the overall attention span of the shoppers has really sort of diminished constantly with this multi-divide experience that they are demanding constantly. So within that short amount of time, how can I relate to your brand purpose? E-commerce retail companies, let us say as an example, and really minimize the friction so that I'm able to achieve what I'm really looking forward to achieving within the shortest possible time and inconsistent with the experiences that I believe your brand should be offering to me. Search engine marketing or overall the world of search would get impacted in the voice search driven world, primarily because instead of taps or clicks, you are effectively looking at a voice activated search query. Now, what it essentially means in certain cases, there would be brand new search queries or words which probably people may have never typed in at all ever, because voice search makes the entire search process very conversational. So I am treating my device as a friend and I am asking her a question, right? So the entire conversational part becomes very important. Voice search also becomes very important in terms of not just the content or the intent behind the voice search, but also the context behind the voice search. When I talk about context, let us say I am booking a table in a restaurant in New York for about 4 people. Am I booking it on a weekend? Am I booking it during office hours? Am I really booking it for a special occasion, etc.? Now, all of these, the voice search query probably would be very similar, but effectively, I'm still really doing the same action. So there are multiple contexts which can be wrapped around the same intent or the search query, and that's where the third component, which becomes probably the most important component, with the advances which have been made in artificial intelligence or machine learning, the search engines like Google will already have an enormous access to a huge amount of data pool, which is very individualized to the customers. And what it means for the SEM or search engine marketing world or the search engine optimization, the overall the search world, is that as marketers, we would really have to be cognizant of that the entire world of search or how your shoppers really engage with search is going to be changing and is changing now forever. For example, it would become almost imperative for a marketer to think of the entire search marketing process from how would their consumer journeys really sort of map out. And from that particular consumer journeys, you are talking about, again, the same example of booking a restaurant for 4 people, for office colleagues versus probably a family outing. I think it's very important for marketers to try to map out those possible potential contexts. But even before that, they really need to identify as to who the right customers is, who would really engage in this sort of a voice search. So we are essentially looking at marketing really going through a massive paradigm shift. A paradigm shift from trying to promote what we really want to promote to what is called the anticipatory marketing, or being better and stronger in terms of anticipating what the online shopper or the end customer is likely to search through voice activation, and not just likely to search, but also what would be the different contexts behind that search process as well. So it becomes a lot more data driven. I don't think marketers have any option but to embrace the new AI driven modules of Google. For example, Google launched some pretty substantial audience maximization models, the smart bidding models, the smart shopping campaign models, etc., etc. I think those are here to stay. So it's just a different form of marketing. At this point in time, what is really happening is marketers are spending too much time in terms of doing some pieces of work which any AI technology can do a lot superior than human beings. And that's a fact. And all of these things are more of the repetitive type, more of the prediction types, and so on and so forth. So what marketers really need to invest more time in, judgment in terms of what are the different contexts behind every search query, what are the different paths that the consumer is likely to follow to get to what they are looking at, and so on and so forth. So the importance of judgment would become more and more important when you get into search marketing, which means that you're not talking about only a search marketing expertise, but you really have to understand a particular domain. I mean, again, not to sort of brag about it, the reason I think we have been so fixated and exclusively focused on at Netlixir only the retail e-commerce domain, because even within retail e-commerce, let us say we have about 13 or 14 categories. Each category's shopper has a very different shopper behavior. And as marketers, it is almost imperative that we spend a lot more time than what we are spending now to understand the consumer persona and being able to really sort of position ourselves better in terms of anticipating what is that they are looking for, what do their shopper journeys would look like, and really provide them in a very responsible as well as a meaningful manner.